We're back to the Total Education Celebrity Show on the Total Education Network, TotalTutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook. And I'm excited to be back doing the Celebrity Show after being in Hilton Head, South Carolina for 2 weeks. But you got to go to my Facebook and check out the experience drive home. It was not the fun experience, but I'm really excited about this experience. So I want to welcome the program, celebrity Mariah Huq from Married to Medicine. What an honor to be on the program, especially with the success of the show, to take the time to come on. So thanks for calling, Mariah.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited to talk to you, and I think when I was talking to you off air, I see that basically how this story developed, how you came up with the reality show in general, was based on, I guess, being a fan of the Real Housewives. Because I loved when I heard that, because again, that's something my wife's got me hooked into, especially jerseys, and I'm going to get into Miami's because I've interviewed Leah, but and I wish I could get to catch up with DC, but it's very interesting that how projects develop based on enjoying certain programming. So tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, it did. You know, I can't lie. You know, like, I've always been a huge fan of the Housewives franchise. I think that they embarked in an area that people weren't used to seeing in terms of reality. So the Real Housewives of Atlanta producers came to me and, you know, offered me a position to do the show. But my husband and I felt like the medical component was truly missing from that show. And from that, we birthed Married to Medicine. You know, we came up with the concept and, you know, did all the casting just amongst our circle of friends. And we just pitched it until someone really just, you know, paid us some attention.
You got to keep knocking on doors, don't you, Mariah? It's not. You do. You have to be very persistent, especially in the entertainment field.
I thank God there are people who really take the time to listen and hear you out. Because I pitched to everybody from Russell Simmons to Stan Lathan to, you know, just everybody. That's what I did. I woke up thinking about the show and I went to bed pitching the show. So, you know, I was just very, very persistent.
And persistency is such an important thing, because if you continue to do that, and then were you finally surprised once you finally did get picked up and then you were on Bravo, were you surprised by this? Because again, it's a process. You put it in the TV vault, you do all those different things. So I know people that I learn more and more about reality television now, that you have to have a production company interested in you. Was it a surprise when it finally happened, or you just knew that this was a great idea?
I just knew it, you know, and I know people, I know that sounds weird, but in my heart, I just felt like it was a phenomenal concept. With the success of the medical shows, like Grey's Anatomy and Private Practice, I just felt like our show could truly go into the personal lives of doctors and the families of doctors. So I just knew that it was something that people needed to see, because everyone has a doctor, and when you think about it, you don't know much about them besides it's your doctor, because, you know, they're so sterile and we're used to them being like robots. So I thought people needed to see the personal side and needed to see the sacrifices that are made for a lot of doctors to be doctors, you know.
And I think that's what made it different than the other Real Housewives brand or other reality television shows, is it really got involved in understanding people and the relationships in the medical field, understanding a lot of times that wives of doctors, it's a different story. It's an interesting situation, because again, there's a lot of sacrifice at the beginning, isn't there, Mariah?
Yes, it is. It really, truly is. I just think my husband did 6 years of residency because he's a double licensed physician. And I was the person. I held down the fort. You know, I did medical devices. I was a journalist. I had a 6-figure income. And, you know, it was a lot, because he was going to take care of someone else's children when our children was homesick. You know, so it was a lot of sacrifices. You know, he missed a lot of birthday parties, anniversaries, but it was for the greater good, and I knew that he had a bigger purpose to serve. So I think it's definitely worth it.
And a lot of times you guys are left alone, raising the children, not having, and really trying to find your own self. And it seemed like you already had a career, so that was okay, but it becomes very lonely at times as well, right?
Well, that was the other reason why I wanted to do the show, because you do become somewhat like a club with the other doctors' wives. You know, you do, because the husbands work such crazy shifts that you have to have, you know, confidants and, you know, comrades. So I truly believe that was another purpose for the show, because you almost form like a doctor's wives club, or you have this community, you know, within the medical world. And I think that you need it, because you need to talk to people who speak your language.
Because they have no idea what they go through every day. Kind of like with how I'm able to relate to my wife. Well, my wife's a school teacher, and I was a former school teacher, that I understand the daily trials and tribulations they go through as a teacher. Certain professions and she's a kindergarten.
Yeah, it requires so much.
It truly does, because when they get home, they really don't want to talk about it because of the stress involved in it and all the different things they want to kind of veg. And in other careers, you know, there could be a lot of conversations. And then I guess the hours are challenging as well. So you do have to have that group together. Were you thinking that, here's a question to throw at you based on, you know, coming up with the idea and everything. Did you think that through these relationships and getting these doctors' wives on the show that there was going to be some conflict, kind of like the Real Housewives brand? Or did you think it was going to be... Okay, go ahead.
To be honest with you, I had no idea we would have more drama than... we had a crazy season. You know, it was just a crazy season, because, you know, I thought, and not that I thought that we were better than anybody else, because I didn't, but I thought, you know, we're all educated women, you know, everyone has a degree, and all, you know, all of us pretty much have our own kind of careers, or with the exception of one of us, and so I thought that, you know, most of us are mothers, so I did think we had drama, but I think that the drama would have parameters, but I was wrong. And when the cameras come on, it doesn't matter what people's titles are. It's just something different, and that happened even with me. So, you know, we're all human.
Well, I had a conversation with Mary, because I'm good friends with Mary Amons from D.C., and she thought, oh, you know what, there's not going to be as much conflict because D.C.'s different than the other housewives brands, and you probably thought the same thing as well. But through reality television, relationships get, I guess, the closet comes out in certain ways. You learn more about people through this TV show, and in a lot of ways, and the producers are very good at doing that. And I guess for you being the creator and producer, you're kind of looking for a little drama sometimes, aren't you?
You know what? Drama is good. I always say a great show consists of a few things. You need great characters. You definitely need people with a lot of charisma, and you need conflict. I mean, I do. I think people like comedy. I think people like to laugh. You know, I was, as a producer and as the original creator, I definitely wanted drama, but I have to admit I did not expect the type of drama, you know, that we had, because I do think that because we were all friends, like it was truly organic, that you have to have a no-fly zone. And sometimes people don't operate with the same moral compass that you may, you know, operate on. So that's, the cameras just change everything.
Let's talk about the cast of characters. Did you know all these people very, very well, or were there a couple thrown in the mix that you didn't know as well?
Oh, no, I casted everybody. Every single person on there I casted. And like one of the doctors delivered my first daughter. The other one was, an associate of mine it was actually her best friend, the other doctor. I think Toya, her husband and my husband are both ER doctors for the same group. Carrie and I, we just knew each other through the medical world and through philanthropy. Quad was my best friend. So it was my circle of, it literally was my circle of friends. Like, they weren't all friends, but they were all my friends, like, in different, friends in different circles, and I just brought them all together. And
then when different personalities get together, and we all know this. Think of family reunions. Think of just different events at bars or different places. You're going to have conflict. People aren't going to always get along. It's going to happen.
Now you tell me. Yeah, you're right. It's good to keep some people separate. Now I understand why people do that, but you're absolutely right. And I think honestly, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are. You get a group of women together, you're going to have some drama.
Yes.
and that's just real.
Absolutely. And so for our listeners out there that have not watched the show, because I know a lot, and I guess I'm learning on the fly in this specific situation, is they showed the lives of you and also the doctors in certain aspects, or more what the lives of the wives were?
I think, I think that they show the lives of the doctors and the wives equally. And I think you actually see a lot of the doctors, and you see a lot of the doctors creating balance. You see a lot of the doctors in their practices, as well as with their own families. And I think that's very important because they have a lot of responsibility. So you see that. You see the wives with their husbands and their families. And you see us a little bit in our own, whether it's philanthropic efforts or work, you do get to see us in other elements. But I think it's basically us interacting with each other and with our families.
And that's a good thing in a lot of ways, because finally your goal is happening. You wanted to see people understand the lives of doctors and their wives, and that was something that was very, very important to you. And I'm sure you got feedback from people that also were married to doctors through Twitter and other types of social media, and you learned a lot about from them as well, right, across the country, that you maybe didn't expect at first.
Yes, we have. We've had a tremendous feedback. The show was a phenomenon. It truly catapulted. We broke Bravo's record for a freshman show that wasn't a spinoff, hitting upward 2.7 million viewers. So I'm extremely elated at the success of the show and the amount of people that have responded in a positive way to the show. I'm happy. Overall, I'm happy. I think that we had some good days and some bad days, but I think we're human. And I think overall, it was just a very balanced cast. I do.
So what I want to do in the next segment is I want to talk more about just the experience of being on TV. And as a journalist, okay, you've dealt with that. And I guess all the wives and the cast, how they got used to this, that the cameras were always watching them, and the experiences of that. And then I guess also the feedback from the fans in a lot of ways as well. And I know that you can't tell us a lot of and then you can tell us some of the upcoming projects you have and things like that, because I think that one of your also ultimate goals was that you can finally, as an entrepreneur and a lot of other entrepreneurs on the show, kind of get a bigger presence and to make a difference in people's lives, right? That's another goal of the show, that through this media, through this opportunity where you get a celebrity status, you can now change a lot of things and be able to make differences in a lot of people's lives, right? That was another goal of the show.
Well, I think if you're smart, you realize that this is not just a platform, it's a jumping board. And reality TV does not last forever. And I think the smart, savvy people learn to use this just as that, as a liaison to something else, jump to something else. And so that definitely is what my goal was the entire time. I always wanted to use this as, a jumping board to other things. I want to be a lifestyle brand, and so that's one of the things that I've been continuously working towards, doing that. And this show gives us the opportunity to do that. When you in so many households, then, people relate to you and they want to buy whatever you're selling.
Well, absolutely, Mariah. And I think that what you're able to bring to the table with that lifestyle brand, what an opportunity. And I guess talk about once the show aired and a lot. So there's a lot more to talk with Mariah Huq. So when we get back, we'll talk more of Mariah Huq. You're listening to the Total Education Celebrity Show on the Total Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're back to the Total Education Celebrity Show on the Total Education Network, TotalTutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, and also the Beach Lifestyle Celebrity segment as well. Thanks to the Beach Lifestyle for connecting all this together, as I'm just trying to get back in the swing of things after Hilton Head, South Carolina. And I'm with Mariah Huq from Married to Medicine. And Mariah, so far, it just shows me that you really were ready for this opportunity. You prepared it, and that's how the creator and producer is able to do things. But then I guess once you got got involved in front of the camera, was it a surprise to you? Did you have any media experience? I know you talked about you being a journalist. Was that more of a writing journalist, or also were you in front of the camera before?
I was in front of the camera. I was actually a public affairs news anchor and producer for an NBC affiliate in Tennessee. So I did have TV experience, but it's just totally different. Network news and reality TV are two totally different monsters. So, I had experience. I think I was poised. However, you can't prepare for reality TV. You really, truly can't.
And being the producer and creator of it, did a lot of them have to work on their, ability to be on television, to be able to relate in stories and different things like that, and their media training as well? Because I know that Bravo is big about that and the whole process. Were they all naturals, would you say?
I don't think they did. And honestly, it comes through on TV. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, you want to get people raw. You want to see people adjusting. You'll see the difference in the first episode than when you get to the 8th episode, because everybody got more acquainted with the cameras, and it is tough initially just to get used to having cameras in your house and when you're having a disagreement with your family. So I don't think anybody had media training per se. I just think the best training is going through it, practice. The more you're on camera, the more you get comfortable with it, and I think that was the case with everyone.
Well, absolutely. And I think that what happens in the situation is we all get comfortable doing something. I started when I first started in radio, if I would listen to myself now, I'd say, oh my gosh, back then I wasn't even ready for it. It's experience, it's the ability, and I guess also to really connect and get used to this is how they're doing this, how they're filming this. So once you saw cameras all the time around you, Mariah, did it bug you at times? This whole reality thing in that way when they were filming and knowing?
You know what? It never did. The beauty of being a part of a show that's an ensemble cast, there's 6 people on our show. So I think at the time I would get irritated. It was time for them to go shoot someone else. So that worked out perfect for me and my family. It's interesting enough, my 8-year-old, Lauren, she was the one who would say, oh, my God, they're here today again. Like, this, I'm over it, So the kids sometimes got a little, frustrated with it, But I think, overall, I was okay because I looked at it like a job.
Exactly, and especially when you wanted to grow your business through that opportunity and your brand. So you say, hey, we got to deal with some of the headaches that are involved. Now, how many children do you have, by the way, Mariah?
I have 2. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, a son and a daughter.
How much did you have them involved in the show?
You know what? Ironically, I always thought I would not want them involved in the show, but I have to be honest, I totally changed my perception of that once I started filming, and I'm not sure if that was the right decision. After you see the entire season, you'll understand why, because I was the person that had issues. The issue and the conflict that I had was involving one of my children, and it was a really big deal, and it affected us in a horrible way. But, I did have them involved quite a bit because I wanted to show as a minority, as an interracial, multicultural family. I thought it was very important for us to show the family perspective. I really, truly did. And, the cultural perspective. My husband's from Bangladesh. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee. We practice Eid, and we have Christmas. We eat macaroni and cheese and curry chicken. I call it Indian soul. So it was important for us to show people how we morphed our cultures together, and we couldn't do that without showing our children.
And in a lot of ways, what about when you watch other reality shows now, Mariah? Now, you don't have to, I'm not going to mention names of them. Do you think that it helped being the producer in a way to make sure that you could protect your children from real issues that could happen, especially if you're watching some of the reality?
No, it didn't. It didn't first season. I wish I could lie and say it did. It didn't first season, no. But I can guarantee it will moving forward. But it's not first season, no. Once you see the entire season, you'll understand. No, we dealt with a horrific situation on there, and my daughter, my 8-year-old, was affected by it terribly. So I felt horrible. I was very distraught. I was in conflict with one of the ladies that caused it, and so it was just a lot. And that was a lot of reason why I said, you think people have a moral compass. And, I became the target a lot because I was a producer. Even though I brought every single one of the women on, I kind of became the target. So I then understood why creators and producers stay behind the camera and not in front of it, because it's hard doing both of those roles.
Oh, I can't imagine what you did. I mean, because at times you're really frustrated. Now you have to film a person you want to kill. I mean, not kill, but meaning beat up or get angry at or have real resentment against. And especially if you're watching tweets and things going on during or just seeing the specifics and then the next. So I could just imagine it's such a challenge, and you sacrificed a lot this first season for sure. Did it frustrate you also once the season did finally air? After all the filming happened and, everyone's calm in certain ways, and then it finally comes on television, and the response through Twitter, the response through Facebook, did you feel, and now finally people were like, paparazzi and all these different things. Was this just a rude awakening for you now that you are a celebrity? All these things that happen?
It happens overnight, I have to admit. You go from having, 700 followers on Twitter to 70,000 or 100,000. So, you go from just having lunch with the kids and family to having lunch and taking, 50 pics, with someone in the restaurant. So it really, truly, even though you feel like you try to prepare for it, nothing can truly prepare you for it, because you never really know what it feels like until you get into that position. And I think that's a part of the territory, but it is tough. It is tough living, being up under a microscope. Because some things you do want to be off, off camera, out of respect for other family members and your children. So it was a rude awakening, but, I guess I expected some of it.
What I'm learning really quickly, Mariah, is I got involved in some tweets with the housewives stuff because of some of the friends I'm on and then with the fans. But then I really I couldn't imagine being on a show and then you see Twitter flooding with these bloggers and these people, and they're constantly...
Yeah, they will tear you up. You can't read the blogs. Now, I've heard that. I heard people say, I've heard other people, like other reality stars, told me early on that I knew you cannot, whatever you do, and you can't, because it will drive you crazy. So I don't read blogs. I don't read the blogs because it's, blogs are going to be negative, and and you have to expect that. So you do better off not reading it, because those kind of things really take a toll on your psyche.
And also the Twitter, like everyone tweeting live all the comments of you. And then if you ended up becoming the one that they all were ganging up on, like other shows, and I don't know all this. So I guess it's good for you to know that in a way, because you can finally tell your true story in certain aspects. And I don't have any preconceived notions about you at all. The thing I see is that it's just really hurtful in certain aspects. And that's great that you got the advice you got, because if you see these things, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to tweet back.
I see them.
Yeah.
Now, let me be clear. I get a lot of Twitter hate mail and, all kinds of things, because everybody's not going to love you. But my husband jokes about it. He calls me the block queen, because I block people. Like, I block their tails. I block them as quick as I can see them. If I see something negative, I just block them. I really, truly do. And, I move forward and just try to ignore it. But, some of it is hurtful, but, you just have to move past it.
So let's talk about the great experiences from the show. I did watch your interview in Atlanta, on Atlanta television, right before interviewing you, just to see how do you pronunciate your name, and then also the other, and just the video of it. Tell me specifically what you think were the greatest pluses of this experience that you were able to bring to the table that provided great information for the audience and also your fans and stuff that you were able to bring awareness to. What would you say through the show?
I think breast cancer. I think, really highlighting Dr. Jackie and her struggle with breast cancer and having a double mastectomy and having breast cancer twice and having beat it twice and, being involved in the breast cancer walks. And just seeing how someone's life has been affected by this disease, and they are still pushing through. And it's the true word of perseverance. So I think that was one of the most touching moments, of the show. I think, also from a personal standpoint, really highlighting, like I said earlier, a multicultural marriage. I think that opening up people to a different culture and a different world and teaching them and educating them on it. I think it's a beautiful thing.
And the feedback you got in both those aspects really made you proud of what you were doing, meaning this is stuff
Absolutely.
that, because a lot of times you could go back and look at the bad things in life, but if you look at all the good things that came of this, that's huge. So let's talk now about you. I mean, like I said, you could see I could talk to you for hours about all the different things, but let's talk about you and your upcoming projects, what you got out of the show that helps you with your branding and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the great thing for me is what you said is I've always intended on having this show. And before this show, my sister and I had a lifestyle bedding, kids bedding and decor line called Jewel and Gem. And we have kids pajamas and kids bedding, and we are getting ready to launch into several department stores. And we've been working on this for 4 years. I mean, well, she's been doing it for 8 years, but, as a brand and having actual products, we've been doing it for 4 years. So that's really huge. That should come out in the department stores early fall. And, I'm working on an Indian soul cookbook, and I'm excited about that as well. So, and there's a whole host of things that you can expect from Mariah. So I'm excited about a lot of the upcoming things I have coming out.
And then the book is a very important thing. And when is that looking to launch your cookbook?
So the book should be coming out in September, and it would be my Indian soul cookbook. And it's going to be great. I mean, it's soul fusion mixed with Asian cuisine, and I think people really, really love it.
Well, you're going to have to come on the show to talk about your cookbook for sure, and we'll promote the cookbook and all that stuff. And then I know I'm going to have to, as we're talking off air, I'm going to have to catch up on the show. I'm sure that but you should say, okay, if a man's interviewing me and he's kind of an education show, maybe he didn't watch Married to Medicine, but we're going to have to find this out. So you'll have to tweet me out or something and say, hey, Neil, this is when it's going to be re-airing again, so I can watch it. So when I talk to you and catch up when the cookbook launches, you'll be saying, oh yeah, so now do you know a little bit more about me? It's kind of funny. I can't wait to watch Leah Black after I didn't know anything about Leah and Real Housewives of Miami at all either.
I love Leah. I love her.
She's a sweetheart. And then Mary Amons, a good friend of mine from DC. I've still not watched any of the DC episodes, and then I probably would think of her in a different way. So, okay, Mariah, any news on, are you going to have another season? Is there any news on that?
We don't know yet. We haven't received the green light. I mean, we're very hopeful. I think we are. I think it's very promising considering how successful of a run we had the first season. So that's another thing I'll tweet you about.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to hear that. And so very, very interesting stuff you have going on. What is your ultimate goal, I guess, being a producer? Because now with the success, here's the thing that you're bringing to the table that lots of the housewives or reality stars aren't bringing, that now you're kind of creating a brand as a producer and creator. Do you have any ideas of ever producing or creating anything else?
Yes, I'm actually working on another project, and it's very similar to this one, and I'm extremely excited about it. It may be going to the logo channel. We're still working. It's a great opportunity, so you'll see a lot more of Mariah in the near future. I love the success that Ryan Seacrest has had, and, I really commend him, for how well he's done, and I want to do something very similar to that.
Okay, fantastic, Mariah. Where can we find more information on you, learn more about you, and so our listeners can follow you and learn all what's going on with Married Medicine? Where do you have a website? Do you have Twitter?
Yes,
give us all
absolutely.
That. Yeah. Okay.
They can find me at www.iluvmariah.com. And I'm also ILUV Mariah on Instagram as well as Twitter. And on Facebook, I am Mariah Huq. Last name is Huq, Huq.
Well, fantastic. You're just really down to earth. And as a celebrity to talk to you and just really get to know you and learn more about you. And I wish you all the luck in the world. I know you're going to be very successful and look forward to having you back once your cookbook's out. So thanks again for calling.
Thank you so much. Okay, you have a great day.
All right, take care, Mariah. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, you're listening to Told Education Celebrity Show on the Told Education Network, and we'll be back in just a moment.